That reaction like you gave Jasmine is what I get at home.
Trigger.
Shut that up. You called her a chihuahua, but I get called the bitch.
I ruined your marriage. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
It's not cute, bro. I didn't do anything. Why do I deserve this? Julia's running around kissing everyone.
We just had sex, like a lot, and it was really good. It was really good, and we had
One night when you were bitching and screaming and yelling and moaning and groaning when we were together hanging out, and I'm like, what the you gotta deal with that all the time?
Sophie had sugar daddy.
Who said that?
She told someone, and that person told me.
This is the tell-all that keeps on giving, y'all. I can't believe that I'm saying this, but even though Brandon, Julia, Stacy, and Florian made it out of the resort, I really wish that they would call it quits. Another thing that has become obvious is that none of these people are actually friends, and they will not miss an opportunity to drag someone and spread a rumor. Yeah, that happened. Let's get into it. Hi guys, welcome back to Nikki Faces Reality. We are here to discuss 90 Day Fiancé The Last Resort. Y'all, we are in part 2 of the tell-all. Apparently there's going to be a part 3. Maybe a part 4 because they still haven't shown us Matt. But obviously there's a lot of drama to pack in. We're going to jump straight into it. Before we do, as always, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. We pick up right where we left off with Brandon and Julia. Everyone is, hounding Julia about the second mystery guy that she cheated on Brandon with. If you're new here, Brandon didn't know that Julia cheated on him until they got to the resort. She dropped it on him in a therapy session, and then in between the sheets, she told on herself when she confirmed Brandon's suspicions that there was in fact a second guy. So when we pick up in this tell-all, she's like, yeah, we kissed. Jasmine, who's trying to divert attention from her ass being pregnant there across from her husband, is like, what kind of kiss was it? And Julia's like, I'm not gonna say that. And she's like, I want to know. Brandon is like, I don't want to know. This is already a lot. He's also there like, I cannot believe that you did this. We were already engaged at that point, and you're just kissing people? Julia's alibi is that they got into this huge fight, and she thought that they were no longer together. And I hear her, but once you are engaged, I feel like there needs to be some sort of closure talk to make sure that it's really over. I just can't fathom getting into a fight with my fiance and being like, well, I guess that's it, and then going on and kissing people. Are you even sure? And at the end of the day, this did happen a long time ago, right? They have been married years since. I think what would bother me, and I don't know if it's what's bothering Brandon, but what's bothering me is Julia's lax attitude about this from the beginning. She's like, yeah, I did that, but it's fine now that it's out in the air. My conscience is clear. She has that attitude, and I'm like, you're dropping a big old bomb on someone. I think what's more mortifying about this is that she's having this revelation again in front of his parents. And Brandon does not want to get over this. He's being real pissy about this, and I think he's extra pissed that his parents are basically taking Julia's side. But the way that he goes about it reminds me that he is a man-child, and he's like, I didn't do anything, and she's just going around kissing everyone. And even though he has a right to be upset, every time I want to take up for him, I'm like, ugh, your whole personality gives me the ick, Brandon. But still, he is within his rights to be upset. Man-child or not, he doesn't deserve to get cheated on. You know what I mean? But then Julia goes up to him to apologize. Except she's not really apologizing. It's just there. And then she says, I promised to you when I got to America that I'm going to be the best wife. And that just pissed him off all over again. Because he's like, no. Why is it that I was committed to you from day one? We were engaged, and that didn't mean anything to you. Your commitment started when you got here? That's messed up. And that is super messed up. And that goes along with the thing that I was saying. Her attitude about things is just yeah, that happened. Get over it. And that would be infuriating. But at the end of the day, this happened years ago. He needs a second to cool off. I agree. Everyone's like, yeah, you got to give him a minute. Because Julia is basically like, are you going to hold this over me for the rest of our marriage? He shouldn't. Brandon needs to not milk this for months. But you also need to give it a second to go away. He needs to process. He was betrayed by you. Not 1 time, 2 times, that you're admitting to. The way that you're so lax about it, I believe that Julia kissed more frogs. Sean, of course, asks Brandon if he trusts Julia, and he's like, not 100%, I don't. Then we move on to Rob and Sophie. So Sophie won't stop talking about this boob job that she got. How can we miss them? They are shiny. She does look amazing, but this girl drags Rob at every opportunity. Not saying he doesn't deserve it, but she is not beating the allegations that she likes to be wanted by Rob, but she does not actually want him. Because apparently they hadn't seen each other for some time, and she's like, hey, you want to see my boobs backstage? And she like flashed him. He's, on stage like, yeah, they look amazing. Too bad I can't touch them. But they've already revealed that they've had schmecks several times. They tell us they had this trip to Disney World, and Rob at that point says that he had already faced defeat, that they wouldn't get back together, so he wasn't trying anything at this trip. And I guess that was the trick, because Sophie was like, oh my God, this was the best time. We didn't talk about us. We didn't fight. And apparently she was texting him that she saw him in a different light. And the next time they saw each other, began a several long situationship between them. They were not together, separated, strictly dickly, okay? And I think what's extra interesting about this is that we find out the timeline of this. They were hooking up together as they were filming Between the Sheets, which lets me know that when things were going good, she was being nice on it. And whenever she found out that he was dating other people, that's when she would drag him between the sheets. I was like, oh, that makes sense, because sometimes it felt like she was Team Rob, and other times she was like, he's the worst person ever. But meanwhile, she's dropping low for him, okay? So Sean is, of course, perplexed because I guess Sean hasn't spun the block on someone. But she calls out, you guys had a very, dramatic breakup. You didn't recommit, so it's interesting to hear that you guys were hooking up again. Rob, when did you start dating post-resort? This is juicy, right? Because Rob is like, well, I waited 3 months. Because apparently he was heartbroken. The problem is, and not really a problem, but Sophie will spin this as a problem. 3 months in, they were no longer together. She said she wasn't gonna go back into their marriage. He started dating, but they were also hooking up at that time. And Sophie's like, yeah, my feelings were hurt. Girl, no one cares about your feelings because you guys are not together, right? But it's messy. How could it not be? There's too much history here, which is why, if you're going to spin the block, don't make it an affair of sorts. Because what happened is they were hooking up. Her feelings were hurt that apparently his new girl was also a British chick, right? And so she's like, is he trying to replace me? It was a whole thing, right? So after months of hooking up, it apparently ended because she started wanting to get back with him. And she knew that it wasn't the right idea. But also, when you're hooking up with someone routinely, feelings are going to come up. Also, feelings of wanting to be possessive, right? You're mine. I don't want you to be out there. But Sophie, you let him go. And also, it sounded like your relationship was tumultuous, not healthy for anyone involved. You particularly are always saying about how destructive this man has been in your life. But as some of you have called out, this is definitely some sort of trauma bond. But then Sean asks Sophie what her dating life has been, and Rob couldn't wait to spread the tea. Sophie dated a guy and a girl, and the guy that she dated was the girl's baby daddy. I've heard Hollywood is small, but it can't be that small. What? But all that to say, they're both like, yeah, we're both dragging our feet on the divorce, but we need to do it. And it's just going to be a form of closure. I don't know how they have not had closure after all this time. It perplexes me. But Messy Sean, and actually it's not Messy Sean because people are being messy on camera. Sean said that she heard a rumor out there. They play it back. And look at here. Who is the pregnant mouthpiece? Jasmine. I'm guessing this is between takes, on Between the Sheets. She's talking to Julia and she's like, yeah, I heard a rumor that Sophie has a sugar daddy. Yeah, that's how she gets to travel around and get things paid for. And Julia was like, who told you that? Because obviously Julia is friends with Sophie. She's like, oh, I can't tell you, but Sophie told someone who told me. We pan back on set. Jasmine is acting like she doesn't know what's going on. Just like, because she was caught. Sophie makes a sarcastic joke about it, like, yeah, my sugar daddy's 93 years old, like whatever, you know? But Rob is fuming at this. And we learned that he's fuming because Jasmine is twisting his words. So apparently early on the last resort, before they were beefing, she had a tantrum. He went outside to console her. And in that, she started prying about his relationship with Sophie. And she's like, how does she get by if you guys don't live together? How does she survive? How does she pay for things? And he's like, oh, I don't know. And she was like, do you think she has a sugar daddy? And he's like, I wouldn't know. So he's pissed because he's like, I see what you're doing. You're literally poison. And she starts turning to Sophie like, oh, I ruined your marriage. And I'm like, Jasmine, you put yourself in every single relationship. You will not shut up. And the minute people drag you with truth, as nasty as it could have been, with truth, you start throwing shoes. This woman is allergic to accountability. But what I find interesting is that Sophie did not say anything to Jasmine. But when Natalie spoke up in defense of Rob, she immediately went to eat up Natalie, telling her that she doesn't know stuff. Why isn't that energy there for Jasmine? Interesting. But then, you guys, we get this moment backstage of Jasmine going into like a dressing room. And they close the door and we hear her talking to Matt. And Miss Victim is like, the men are ganging up on me. Rob is talking crap about me and my child. And Matt is like, what a loser. And also, you know, you did nothing wrong. You were in an open relationship. And I'm like, yo, open relationship or not, there were guidelines that you guys literally disrespected. I think they keep throwing out the open relationship like it's supposed to be a band-aid. Open relationships come with guidelines. Guidelines that you both agreed to on camera and completely disrespected. You disrespected the having feelings part, you disrespected the boundaries part, and you disrespected the most important, which is to wear protection. This was never supposed to happen. So when Jasmine says that she's taking accountability, I'm like, accountability where? Say it. I no longer wanted to be with Gino. I did have feelings for Matt. So what? And this is the outcome. The more you keep denying and playing in people's faces, the more people are gonna come at you. Anyway, we move on to the Stacy and Florian segment. Oof, it's just a lot of feelings about this. So they get asked about their life post-resort. Stacy says that it was great, you know, for a little bit, and then immediately Florian went back to his old antics. Florian is like, you know, therapy was great for her, but I don't believe in therapy. I think that it's a money grab. And that's a completely different tune from what he was saying at the end of the resort. He was saying that he learned so much. So I'm like, Florian, were you performing for us? Were you performing for Stacy? Like, that's not cool. I also don't like that it was very much like it helped her as if she was the problem. And I'm not saying Stacy's perfect, but I just feel like, again, Florian, my guy, you have a lot to work through. And Stacy says that he only likes her when he needs or wants something, which made my wheels turn like, wait, does Florian have a job yet? Is he still, you know, a sugar baby? But things go from bad to worse in their relationship because apparently they have not been intimate in like 4 months. You know, it's taking a toll on Stacy emotionally because obviously they're not at a good place, but also hormonally, she's going through menopause and she breaks down. Of course, everyone asks him like, haha, does Florian know menopause? He obviously has no idea. The guys try to explain it to him. And I really like Florian, but he has a quality that I detest in all people, but especially dating partners. The lack of initiative, the lack of curiosity. If you care about me and something is affecting me and you are not familiar on it, I would expect you to research it in some shape or form, whether it's a book, whether it's Google, whether it's YouTube, something to educate yourself so that you know how to support me, because I would do that for a partner. And she's crying in front of him and she's telling everyone like all the things that she's experiencing. And he's just like, well, and that's heartbreaking for me because you can see a glimpse into what it was like for her when she was healing from her surgery. He is useless. So Stacy's like, I feel like I'm in a constant battle between my hormones and his stupidity. And on top of that, his anger. Then they play back the scenes of the way that he would erupt on people at the last resort. And Stacy's like, yeah, he's a liability. It is embarrassing to me. I constantly have to defend him. And also, I think the most revealing part of this is that, you know, as people are telling him, like, you have a problem, he's like, I don't have a problem. I live in Miami. You know, if I had a problem, I would be getting into more fights. Stacy's like, a few things. The way that you were talking to Jasmine, you talked to me at home. He calls her out her name. He gets riled up. And I was like, whoa. Stacy must be covering for this guy a lot more than we know. That's not okay, right? But second, she's like, yeah, you don't get in fights in Miami because you're around girls that are flirting with you. You're not being around people that are pushing your buttons and vice versa. There's a moment that Natalie comes to his defense and she's like, you know, I feel like at the resort, we were purposely seeing people, you know, push his buttons. And sure, there was maybe 1 or 2 occasions, but for the most part, this is all Florian, you know, and alcohol. But she was like, you know, Jasmine was definitely pushing his buttons. And Jasmine, out of all people, is like, if you're that easily triggered, then, you know, that's unacceptable. I'm sorry. Wasn't she just throwing shoes when she was triggered by the truth just an episode ago? Also, her entire existence, Jasmine is constantly triggered. She's triggered by her shadow. She's constantly triggered. You breathe wrong, she's triggered. You talk to the waitress, she's triggered. You get her the wrong weave, she's triggered. You hold her accountable, she's triggered. Like, girl, if I were her, I would have remained quiet for the remainder of the tell-all, but she has zero self-awareness. Gino is like, Florian, I love you, man, but you need help. Josh, who again is another person that shouldn't speak, he reiterates, though, something that he did tell Florian at the resort, which is, you expect Stacy to be soft, but you're not soft with her. You need to practice that. And I agree. But of course, it wouldn't be a Stacy and Florian segment if they didn't bring out Darcey. And this time they bring out Darcey and Giorgi. Stacy and Darcey do this thing, and again, it's like part of like the twin performance, where they want to hype each other but also tear each other down. It's very like frenemy-like. So Darcey comes in, Stacy's like, everyone get up for the queen, the diva. And I think she did that because she knows that Darcey would like that, but then she also gets upset when Darcey makes her feel like second fiddle. But they kind of play into that. So Darcey and Giorgi are hugging everybody, but then Darcey almost forgets to hug Stacy. And then they like have this thing that they do where they're like check each other out, you know, oh, snatched. But really, it's like shady. It's so strange. I would hate to be a twin in this kind of dynamic. They're in constant competition. But anyway, after the welcome spectacle is over, Sean is like, yeah, I mean, you guys are close, but, you know, she has said that you are a problem in her relationship. Darcey is still not grasping how she's crossing boundaries. She doesn't get how calling Florian at all hours of the night is a problem, but I think also what she's skipping by is that it's not just that you're, you know, calling Florian to let out your grievances on your relationship. It's also that you're calling Florian, talking crap about your sister, and telling him that he's better off without your sister. Like, that is a line you should never cross. And Stacy's like, you know, I get that you guys are brother and sister, but I don't rely on Giorgi in the ways that you rely on my man. Darcey, of course, is another one that's allergic to accountability. She is never in the wrong. And she's like, well, you know what, Stacy, that's not fair because you've told me that I should divorce Giorgi. And here's the thing, Stacy has said that, but Stacy telling her sister that is completely different from going to Giorgi and telling Giorgi he should let go of Darcey. Darcey's not grasping the betrayal of talking crap about your sister to her own husband. When they ask Giorgi, Darcey's husband, about how he feels about the relationship, I really don't think that he cares about Darcey, so he could not give a damn that she's going to Florian. If anything, I feel like it's making his plate lighter, less to deal with, because Darcey is a lot. He's like, no, there's no problem with that. Then Sean is like, so do you think that Stacy should trust Florian? And he is not helpful. He's like, well, maybe then she shouldn't trust him 100%. And Florian is like, thanks for nothing. Like, And that was it for this episode. I feel like there's so many loose ends. They have to have more parts, of course. In part 3, which I didn't know was gonna happen, we're gonna get Ari versus Julia. Apparently, Binny also almost got extorted. We got more Stacy and Florian drama. Also, freaking Natalie and Josh go at it because apparently he was coming after his ex-wife. So that's gonna reach a peak. So there's definitely gonna be a part 4 because we still have to get that scene where Sophie's like, "You want me to show you receipts?" And then also the Matt of it all. So much craziness. You guys, please let me know your thoughts in the comments. I cannot wait to hear them. Also, aside from 90 Day stuff, on YouTube, if you go to my channel, I have my other page linked. That's going to be my personal channel where I can like make vlogs or talk about other things that are not reality TV related. But I want to do like get readies with me or like, you know, concert vlogs or daily vlogs or, you know, stuff like that. So if you're into that, I'll tag it in the description and it's already linked to my channel. But yeah, you guys, that's it. I hope that you have a beautiful weekend and I'll see you next week. Bye.